there's lots of people that can tell a story. And I mean, I'm gonna say that everybody can't tell a story. I mean, my brother can't tell a story for his life. It's just is what it is. But like some people just can't tell stories, and so that's like where we come in and become, creative and help to share it in a light that they never would have thought before, but is still the same truth that they were telling us.
Hey, what's up? This is Jamal Abbott. Thanks for tuning in. I have a special episode today where we get to talk about marketing, we talk about business, we talk about all the tools that are needed for small businesses in today's digital world to get your message across so that way you can reach your customers and potential customers. So this episode features Michael Stevens and Alicia Josie. They are a part of the Edge Agency, which is a Las Vegas-based agency, really designed and has a mission to help out small business owners and other businesses to get their messaging across. And this was a super impactful interview. So the majority of the conversation focused on Michael because he was the one that was able to join us today from the Edge Agency. And we talked a lot about the creative process that goes into getting your message across. So you're going to learn about Michael's background as well as what got him involved in the digital marketing space. You're also going to hear about some of my questions involving some of the digital tools available, dealing with marketing and advertising, and then if that even works. And the short of it is it does. You're going to get some tips and some insights from Michael about how that all works. So this was a great conversation. Really enjoyed the discussion. I definitely learned a lot from this, and I hope you will too. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Michael Steven of the Edge Agency. Michael, hey, appreciate you joining the show. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me, us. My wife Alicia is not here, but on the other side. So, Michael, how you doing?
All right. Right on. Yeah, Michael. So yeah, just love to learn a little bit more about yourself. Tell me about yourself and what you and Lisa are all about.
Yeah, I'll talk about myself since I'm here. I've been doing a lot of different things in my life. Like I moved around a lot, and that kind of started my, I guess, like mental journey of just kind of being all over the place. Little did I know that I have like ADHD and like, different things that are just like what caused my brain to work the way it works, right? And I used to think that was a bad thing until I realized that I could actually use it, like, for the good. So being able to, focus on something and get something done, that's just like, especially when you're editing videos and stuff. What I focus on now is I'm a filmmaker, film director, business development. Our company, the Edge Agency, we are a video production agency. We're moving towards full service marketing agency. We have a lot of the skills, but right now we're learning, as we go. So that's like the next step. And of course, we can hire out, to marketing experts to get things rolling. But yeah, I've been doing like video camera operations since I was about 15, just doing like live production at the churches and stuff. And so eventually, I got my own camera, practiced and started, getting my own freelance clients. And now I'm at the point of seeing things from the bigger picture where we're realizing that, we are better at organizing things to a grand scale to elevate things like from nothing, so that's what we've kind of been just like studying, like same as us, like we didn't really know how we were supposed to get started on things until we actually learned from the professionals. And so now we're here trying to help other people to know what they need or help.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great background. So I'd love to dig a little bit more deeper into that. Can you just take me back to the very beginning? Where did you get the idea to start picking up a camera and recording? Was it like, and I mean, I don't know how exactly old you are, but was it like an old camera that grandma had, or was it
Right.
one of those film cameras like this?
It's
Talk
funny.
to me about that.
Okay, so my father, he is in news production in broadcast journalism. And so he's like working at, I think 11 Alive News was one of the places he worked at in Georgia. But so he was like on, television. And so I was always in the studio since I was little kid, always in the studio seeing all of the cameras and stuff. So like I liked what my dad did, but I was more interested in like the cameras and the lights and all of that. So I grew up around big cameras, and then the first camera I actually had, I never had my own camera. I always used them because they were just like, well, you can do it, so might as well just use the big stuff. I was like, okay, so I was using a Sony, or was it? I think it was a Sony or a Panasonic. It was using the cassette tape. It was no DVD. It was no hard drives, nothing like that. It was like it was live broadcast too. So I had to learn how to be still. And when I heard my name called, I had to was like, okay, here we go, I'm live. Don't move. And I learned in church. I started in church, and I actually started audio engineering before I did camera operations. So they were just like, well, if you can do that and your dad does that, can you do this? And I was like, I guess. And so, they're just like, well, here, do this because the other guy's sick right now. I was like, oh gosh, okay. So it pulled me in 5 minutes before they had to start. And I was like, oh, it's not too bad. But then I was like, okay, this is cool. Cause like I could just jump in here real quick, get it done. And it's not that hard. Like I don't have to sing right this second. I'm not like in the spotlight. I can make the other people look good. And I'm like, that's
Right.
nice. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I did also see that you got involved in computers too. So maybe talk to us a little bit about computers, how you got involved in that. It looks like before the age of 10, you got involved in computers, and then
Yeah.
what ultimately led you to drop the computer stuff and then want to go further into production?
Man, so like I never got a degree or anything in computer engineering or anything like that. But I started like I was just going to thrift stores and buying old computers, and just because I'm a tech person in general. Like I was always the person that fixed the printer. I always remembered the password for the TV or whatever. So, I was just like always that person. And so I just liked doing Legos. I'm a ENFP is my personality type. So I'm a extrovert, but I also think a lot, I guess you could say. And I also think like very sporadically. So my brain just kind of goes all over the place. And so that helped me to be able to like see, okay, I can see a computer, like, okay, it's got these components and this one has these. So if I get these together, I can like make something that works. And so I made like this like media system for my house when I was like 13, when LimeWire was a thing. And it was just like I thought I was the boss. I didn't know that was. I'm just gonna say that I learned my lessons because I was like, okay, now I understand what the law is, and these things are more prevalent. So I'm like, okay, okay. But I was always interested in just like fixing things and figuring things out. I went to engineering school, or went to school for engineering for a bit, and I went to school for medical. Was it pre-medical or it was pre-medical school,
Mhm.
and for biomedical engineering, and then ended up going to psychology. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Just my brain just wanted to learn a lot. So I was
Mhm.
just like kind of jumping through different places, different avenues, and so I finally went to psychology because I was like, well, I don't. My brain is just crazy. I didn't really understand it. I never was told anything about like, mental health growing up. So I just didn't know what that even meant or where to start. So, digging deeper into my brain set and my mind and trying to figure out how it works, how to study, how to remember these things. I just wasn't towards the end of college. I was hard for me to focus on memorizing like, Latin words for bio and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, now that I look back, it was because I was just in a stressful situation. I was a commuter, but I was living on campus. So I would have to, find somewhere to stay on campus or like sleep on the couch in the commuter lounge. But like that ended up getting like, being called the cops on because somebody said that I was like a, like a homeless person sleeping and so they go and escort me. So it was like a lot of that stuff happening. So towards the end, I was just like, I didn't really know what was happening. I was trying to kind of figure out how my brain worked. And so psychology, I learned that like, shoot, I could actually have like a lot of stuff going on in my brain. So eventually my student loans ran out. I ran out of money. So dropped out of school and started focusing on like, I guess, the adult world. I just kind of like jumped in there,
Mm.
got a desk job and used that money from my first desk job to get my first camera for my own self, Canon T2i. So,
Okay.
um, but yeah, this is about computers. But yeah, I've just been tinkering with everything, just like learning how to, solder and like, use little tiny screws for like little tiny devices. I've just always been, I went from there to smartphones, like repairing smartphones, to eventually just realizing that I just want to do art.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like just video, like just showing what's in my brain because it's just too much in there. I just have to get it out. And so that's where I'm like, okay, let me learn everything about video production that I can possibly, including RAID setups. And, you know, so now I can use everything I have for, what I have now. It's great. I can, it's going to be, yeah, good. I'm excited I want to install a network for storage because right now we're running out and we're like, oh shoot, we're actually doing like a lot more like 4K, 8K, so now we got to
Yeah.
expand.
I appreciate the background and then just the thought process that you went through with trying different things. That's what I always try to tell my nieces and nephews is that you really don't know what you want to do in this life until you start trying things. And you don't want to just have that thought like stuck in your head and then never act upon that thing and never know if that's really the thing that you want to do or not. So I definitely applaud you for your efforts with trying and trying to make some things happen with that. So you're just like, hey, all right, I like this video thing. I got some ideas that I can get out of my head. And it sounds like you do a
Mm,
pretty good job too with maybe just like self studying. Would that be a fair assessment versus like learning in a traditional classroom?
absolutely. I mean, the classroom was great depending on what class it was or depending on what mindset I was. But, if I was a little stressed out, I just wouldn't be able to focus. And so me being a self-learner, I can, let's say it's an online course, I can pause it and I can take a moment. When I feel myself drifting, I'm like, okay, I can just take a second. Let me collect myself. Let me see, make sure I didn't miss anything. Let me take notes. I'm an auditory and visual learner. So it helps to see someone talking about something, also hearing it, and also, having like the text on the screen to read. So those things together, that's really powerful for, I think, anybody, but especially somebody
Absolutely.
that, you have a hard time focusing in general and you just have so many ideas coming out that it's just like, that's great that really helps to focus 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if that teacher's boring and dry too. It's just like, oh man, like why am I here right now? All right. So you got to the point where you're like, I want to make this a full-time thing. I'm pretty passionate about this. Talk to me about maybe let me back up here real quick. So you mentioned Georgia. We're in Vegas right now. How'd you get
Mm.
from Georgia to Vegas?
Yeah, I was in Georgia. I moved from there when I was about 12 years old. So I lived in New York for 6 months after that. My dad had lost his broadcast job. So we were living with my grandmother for 6 months, lived with my other grandmother for another six. And then I ended up that was in Philadelphia. So New York to Philadelphia, back to New York for middle school. Middle school, that was in Bayshore, New York. And that was until we moved to Michigan for high school. And Michigan was, yeah, that was the next place. After Michigan, moved back to New York to take care of my uncle. And I finished high school there and my first 2 years of college. So after that, I went to Florida which is, tech capital, or it was at the time, and they're still booming and everything out there. So yeah, from Tampa, that's where I was going to school in the University of Tampa, and started doing like film on my own, like realizing I actually want to do this instead of what I was trying to do before, which was possibly making other people happy, and possibly just like, kind of going with the flow. So
Hmm.
I feel like I got my head on straight, once I decided to go to film.
All right. And then you eventually made your way to Las Vegas with
Yeah,
the
right from
Northern
Florida.
Lights, right from
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right from Florida. I went right to Las Vegas, and yeah, I'm here in this beautiful city.
Yeah, definitely beautiful. I mean, probably not as beautiful with, Tampa and the beaches and the water and things like that, but we definitely got a lot out here. What led you to for you and Alicia to start the agency? Talk to me about that story.
Alicia, she started her agency, and she had, I think it was like, it's the same company, but under a different name, but it's very similar, a few years back. And so we decided to be like official because we realized that there was an issue with small businesses closing down for no reason. Like we had a lot of stuff happening, in this past few years. And so people, some people didn't take it seriously. Some people were hoping that we would bounce back maybe in like a year or so, or just like kind of things, not saying things aren't normal, but they just aren't, because it's just a fact of what it is. People
Right.
aren't going out as much as they used to, and people are, digitally ordering, food now. So if someone doesn't know that a restaurant exists because they're not driving, there's no way to tell that person, we're here, come order with us, unless you're on a tech platform like, DoorDash or
Right.
Uber Eats, or you're advertising with commercials on like YouTube or Hulu, telling people that we have delivery ourselves. So yeah. So yeah, we saw that it was an issue with stores closing because people just weren't, going into stores anymore. And so in this age, there's really there's so much space for people to get themselves in front of their customers in terms of advertising, like on YouTube and Hulu. I mean, I keep saying the same things, but that's just what it is. Like everyone is on these platforms. Like if you're at home watching a movie and it's late, and we know that people make late like decisions like for late night snacks and things like that.
Right.
So if you see a pizza and you see it's open for another 2 hours and they have delivery, I mean, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and nobody else is open. So what are you gonna do?
Right.
That's
It's
the
no
perfect.
brainer.
Exactly. And that's when you advertise, when your competition is low, you find these avenues and find exactly what times you want your capture your customers. You know, Business people generally, they have their breaks during the day. And so if you're watching a video and you see a quick little advertisement, whatever, you never know what's going to happen, and it's a very high percentage that somebody's going to, check you out.
So if I'm the small business and maybe I've been around for a long time and I wasn't paying attention to this digital revolution, we'll call it, that you're talking about,
Yeah.
why not advertise like through the newspaper or through TV commercial, or maybe even put out a billboard ad? Why would I even bother with this digital stuff when this old stuff used to work?
I mean, I'm going to say that the digital age and YouTube and online streaming services, they have a lot of, I'd say, more younger viewers. So in terms of products and things like that, it's kind of a no-brainer. But if you don't actually understand it, right? If you would like to, you can advertise on television as well, because we do that too. Like we don't just advertise for YouTube, we advertise for live digital television, full license. So if you go this way, which, I mean, I feel like it's it ends up being very expensive, in terms of, primetime television and things like that. I can't remember the factors of how much it costs for television, for not pay per click, but for the CPM, I think it is. The So however many people see your however much it costs in terms of how many people see your ad per person. It just ends up being a lot less expensive online. Pennies, for each person that could see your advertisement potentially. So
Mm,
when you can rack up a lot more views with a compelling commercial that actually sucks someone in and has them watch, you have an ad that you can possibly skip, after 5 seconds. You only have 5 seconds to capture somebody's attention. So if you can't do it then, you just hope for the best. But if you can capture somebody's attention and have them just watch your commercial all the way through, that means you've made an impact. You've made them actually think about your product. So with them thinking that goes right to their somewhere in their brain. I forgot, not the prenatal cortex, but it's one of them,
mm.
one of the parts in your brain. But it sticks in that memory, like the unconscious memory, that when you see that in person or you see that again somewhere on an advertisement somewhere else, you're like, oh, that's familiar. Why? I don't know, but it looks good. Let me get that. Let me get that pizza, or
Yeah.
let me buy that t-shirt or whatever it is.
Awesome. And so this is maybe another question for that small business owner. So, okay, I understand what you're saying. There are a lot of people on on YouTube and TikTok and LinkedIn and things of that nature. But how do I know it's really going to work? Like, what are some ways to know that what I'm actually spending on with these platforms is actually going to work? And how do I measure that?
Well, I'm going to say one statistic is that 86% of people that have seen a product or an advertisement online was inclined to buy it from that advertisement. So when people see things with their eyes versus hearing it on the radio or reading it, you it's almost as if you have all of those different avenues combined, because like I was saying, how you can focus with, when I can focus with, video, sound, and reading text. You put all those things together in a video and it kind of magically sucks people in to understand what your product is and what your goal is. And you have to make that clear, because if you don't do it 100%, you know, with the in mind of the customer, of retaining them and not losing them, if you just slap things together and don't take time to do it, it's probably not going to work.
Mm,
But there's certain ways to just there's an order of things, and it's like that's a whole nother, whole nother topic. But there's an order in which to grab somebody's attention, like starting off with a hey, or a flashing certain color to have someone to be drawn in, like
mm,
a pastel, if it's a, I don't know, like nail polish, or if it's a tech, it'd be like black and white or silver or chrome. That's what you start with, or like you start with a sound, or like you show your item right away, like this is revolutionary, blah blah blah, things like that. Can you say your question again though? I just want to make sure I don't derail.
yeah, no problem. So how do I know that using these tech platforms are going to make a difference if I'm advertising as a small business? So what can I tell that the money and the time and effort that I'm spending in that digital arena is actually going to make like a return on my investment? How do I know that
Mhm.
that's actually going to work?
Well, the best way is to test it out, honestly. You can advertise a large amount of people with only $100 on YouTube. And I'm going to say that you could possibly get 10,000 people to see your advertisement with that $100. So if you are selling bracelets and you want people to see how they fit and how, you know, does it I don't know, affect your chakra or whatever it is, whatever the item is. Once you show them how it works and things like that, and they can actually like understand like from a standpoint, like how is this going to help me in, my life and my journey? Like, is this going to make me more productive? If I'm I'm trying to study in school and I'm trying to, practice or try to get better at, memorizing everything. And I want to get, somebody has a memory bracelet. Of course, I mean, I might try it out if it's only, I don't know, me, I pay $10 for a bracelet.
Mhm.
If it would actually help me. I know that it won't, but it's all about, and we're, that's kind of getting into like scam territory. Personally feel, I just,
Mhm.
there's things that you can just prove, like this watch is lighter than the rest. Okay, great. I'm gonna get it because I like light watches.
Right.
There's when you advertise, and especially when you can direct your commercials to a certain price range of yearly salary that someone makes, and you have an expensive item that your audience likes, you're gonna get some sales regardless. Now, even if you don't want to pay advertising to show your products, you know, the next thing is just shooting your own stuff and putting it on your own channel.
Mm.
Reason is those videos, you can put them on your website and people can learn about your product through video. So you don't even have to necessarily pay anything to do it. You can do it yourself. You talk to the right person to help you understand what it is that you need, or you just, you don't know anything about video. You talk to an expert, and like, that's what a consultation fee is. It's like you're not paying someone $20,000 to do a production. You're paying some money to have someone teach you how to do it yourself,
Mm.
and
I see.
teach you what you need in order to, succeed at that. So yeah, so I mean, it's, you pay a little bit of money to actually get your videos to show at a high rank, to show, to just get it in front of people, just like flyers. It's the same thing. It's just like flyers on steroids, because it's like if the flyers had some speakers and, a little video on top, I'd be like, wow, I got to go to this right now, whatever it is.
Awesome. So, and so basically, one thing to consider too with this digital advertising versus anything from the traditional world, it's generally going to be a lot cheaper compared to running television commercials or print in other forms of media.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I believe so. Um, the world is moving fast. Like, I didn't see it moving this fast, this quickly, like when I was younger, but like I always read, the pop sci magazines, and we're in a place where, I mean, we have I have a lot of stats written down, but there's a high percentage of people that are using YouTube. Let's see. They're I'm not good with stats, but there's a lot of people that are using YouTube all the time at one time, And so when you can target a lot of people at one time, and actually, you know, you're saving money, and you're guaranteed that someone's going to see this commercial, because that's what you're paying Google for. Is that because when you advertise on television, everybody's not watching television, You're paying for everybody that could possibly be watching television at that time. That's why it's more expensive during prime time.
Mm.
So when when you can go on YouTube and advertise, your advertisements only pop up when someone is watching the video. So if somebody's watching a video that their video ads are going to pop up right before they watch that video. So they're tuned in to watch whatever that video is. It has nothing to do with yours necessarily, but unless you're targeted that way, but which is smart. But whoever watches your video, it can be someone in another country, and they like your product. They're gonna buy it. I mean, is your product good or not? And do you know enough about your own product to educate your consumer?
Perfect. Yeah, that's huge. So yeah, you dropped a lot, man, and I appreciate you breaking that down. It's a no-brainer to go with the cheaper option to test it out versus going all in on something that used to work
Mhm.
back in the day. And like we just talked about, the world has changed. The world has definitely changed in the last couple of years. And you gave the perfect example of not be able to find your restaurant or your food joint if they're not out and about, especially if they're spending more time on this than they are with
Mhm.
anything else. Another thing that I saw that was on your website, I thought that was pretty cool. It talked about the difference between a storyteller and a creative storyteller. So I wonder if you could maybe break down the difference between what that is. And I just assume here that's all storytellers would be creative, but there must
Yeah.
be a difference if you guys are calling this out.
When you're telling stories, people tend to listen, you know, but people can also tell a BSer, like, from the jump, you know? We can all feel that energy when somebody's trying to, rip you off or something like that.
Mm.
We just wanna be honest. We don't really care for, twisting things how they aren't meant to be. You can be creative and give a wonderful picture of something without, crossing that boundary of changing the narrative,
Mhm.
because then you're changing someone's whole background or company or what they stand for. Like, so listening and telling a story from a standpoint of giving information versus trying to engage someone in that story, to have them listen, to actually have them be 100% there,
Right.
I've met many great storytellers, from preachers to homeless people, like, there's lots of people that can tell a story. And I mean, I'm gonna say that everybody can't tell a story. I mean, my brother can't tell a story for his life. It's what it is. But like, some people just can't tell stories, and so that's like where we come in and become, creative, and help to share it in a light that they never would have thought before, but is still the same truth that they were telling us, just on a scale of, a whole nother universe of someone's mental, their brain, like, you can't really tell what it is until you lay it out, get it done, show what it is.
Another question about the business. We know that it's important to tell compelling stories just because our attention span is much shorter today than it ever was in previous times. So, talk to me about some of the different ways that your company tells different stories. So, I did notice that there was one client that needed a cartoon and that was pushed out. So, maybe you can talk about that and how storytelling comes into play when it comes to maybe doing visual stories or
Mm.
audio stories or other things that gets the message across for your clients.
Yeah, that's a good example. The book that we made, it was a physical book that someone gave us, and we turned it into a cartoon. So there's always a reason for doing a project. There's never just doing a project just to get some content out. There's always a reason for it. And so we created the cartoon for them so that they could increase their sales for their book. That's the long run, now that we're going to start doing that. But it's got a few views, and so people are seeing it and they're enjoying it. All right, so I gave my disclaimer in the beginning. I have ADD. Can you say the question one more time so I can get?
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I just talked about the different ways to engage and to tell stories. So we know that we can do it from a visual standpoint. We know that stories can be told, from an audio perspective. And then we reference the cartoon as an example of it, maybe
Mhm.
that combined together. So if you can just talk about
Okay.
why that's important for some other small businesses out there that are looking to get business. Because, I mean, the whole point of advertising is to tell our story, to talk about our brand, and then
Mhm.
maybe try to get the understanding of what this brand represents and why it's safe to do business with us. So maybe just talk about the importance of those different forms of storytelling, whether it's visual,
Mhm.
audio, and then how your company delivers on that.
The importance when you're advertising is knowing your audience. Like, who is your customer base? If your audience is children. I mean, children aren't buying things, their parents are buying for them. But, if you want a child to, be interested in something, add sound effects and make it move, add colors and make it interactive. If a kid is following a book, it's good to have, I mean, it helps. Like we've had the read along books. What is it? The golden books that they had, the read along with the chime and everything.
Hmm.
Um, that was kind of our inspiration. And so I thought it would be great because kids that just don't pay attention that much or they're not that good of readers, they can also have that as well to go along with it. Here's the opposite side. So if your customers are elderly people that need hearing aids, I don't know if it would work very well if you put a advertisement on the radio, 'Cause, I mean,
Right.
it's hearing aids. They can't really hear very well. So like
Right. Right.
if you want them to upgrade or something like that, make a commercial that they can see and put it on those advertisement or avenues where they are. If you are a restaurant and you want someone to basically taste what their food tastes like without, even going into their restaurant. I mean, you can write a vlog about it, but you can't really tell all the ingredients and you can't tell your secret spices or anything. When they get in there and they smell it, they're already there. But how do you get them in the restaurant?
Right.
So, you can, you've got your sizzles and your Pizza Hut commercials when you're, ooh, tasty, you hear the oven timer or whatever, or like DiGiorno, they're like, if you get this pizza, you can actually have pizza in your house without leaving. So when you're at the grocery store, next time pick one up. And it's just like getting the emotional response of having people to react and again engage. You know, engaging is saying, even if it's in your head, it's like, wow, that looks great. I'm gonna have to, do that. But how do you see it if it's on a commercial that's on a radio program or even Pandora or something like? So it's really knowing your audience and really pinpointing. Like I'm giving like really vague examples right now, but if you are selling cars, you can talk about the special features and things like that. But you obviously see a trend of people showing cars on YouTube, not
Hmm.
even advertisements, just a full video, a whole walkthrough of, talking about what the greatest things are about this new product, this new car, showing you that the interior is completely lit from the new panoramic sunroof instead of just telling you. Like telling you is great, okay, I'll check it out when I get to the dealership. But if I can see it, without having to go to the dealership, that might make me even more inclined because I'm like, oh, okay. So if I get the new Ford instead of the new Jaguar, it's my taste, it's my style, this is what I like. I can see myself in that vehicle, you
Hmm.
know? So you've got, what do we talk about? So we were talking about like cartoon, you've got a commercial for cars. Let's see, give me another product. I mean, maybe I'm trying to think of.
Let's see another product. Let me think here. Well, maybe let's talk about since we touched on mental health. Maybe selling a mental health service. So maybe selling therapy. How would we go about that in our
Mhm.
little discussion
Yeah,
here?
that's great. So, therapy is good. This is one that you don't necessarily have to have a commercial for it because we know that a soothing voice and someone with telling positive affirmations, it makes us feel good, inside. And that could definitely incline us to call the number that they tell. Call right now to have your free consultation or just to talk to someone, if that's your service. That would absolutely be beneficial to having someone to understand there's someone there for me. And so I'm going to reach out for this person. Yes, you can possibly increase the engagement by having a visual commercial for that, having someone seeing someone being held like hugged or like feeling good, I'm talking to this person, I feel great.
Hmm.
So, but yes, you can absolutely use audio in that aspect. There's just certain markets that you can do certain things. Cartoons, they're just better to advertise on video because it's a cartoon, you see it rather than having a commercial about it. It's like, again, our attention spans aren't where they used to be, I guess, like as a
Hmm.
whole generation. And
Absolutely.
so we don't remember things that well just with audio anymore, it just is what it is.
Hmm.
So, but
All
yeah.
right. Some good examples. As we get ready to wrap things up, I just have maybe just a couple more questions for you about talking to the next generation. So maybe there's somebody out there that wants to be involved in film or in entertainment or content creation, content delivery, things of that like that. What advice would you give somebody? And then maybe specifically, what advice would you give to yourself if you were to take all the knowledge and experience you have up to this point and then talk to your younger version of yourself? What would you tell yourself to maybe get on that path of achieving some of the goals that you have in this field and in this space?
Yeah, my younger self, I definitely would have told myself to worry about my mental health first and really understand who I was as a person. It was great getting the experience of doing a lot of different things in my lifetime. And I think that helped a lot with my business side in terms of like my later years. But I also would have, after getting myself, mentally well, learn the business side first, because that's the most, I think, important thing of any business is going to
Hmm.
business school, whether you're going to do, you know, selling jewelry or consultation or even being in the military. Being business savvy, it gives you such a high level of thinking, being able to think from the top down or from the bottom up, because you know what it takes to run a successful business and you know what it takes to fail a business. So I would have definitely learned a lot of business, went to business school from the jump, like from the very first semester.
That's good.
And yeah, and then like learned what I wanted to in terms of like my craft, because our businesses, like, I mean, technically it could be great if everyone is a business owner. We never know if it could be bad because there's no consumers, but there are always going to be consumers. So like,
Hmm.
the more businesses, I feel like the better off we are, because we're increasing wealth for everyone, not just us. And that should be like the whole goal, is to be able to help, other people, which is why you have a business, is to help other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So mental health, business school. Yeah. I think those are like, those are two things, at least two that I have that I would tell myself.
All right. Sounds good. And you mentioned statistics. I feel like that stat out there is that there's most businesses out there, like 99% of them are like small businesses. And there's like a
Mhm.
small certain percentage of large businesses that are out there. But yeah, 100% agree with you on the need for knowing business skills. It's something that I've learned over time that I
Mhm.
have way more interest in business than I did with anything else, to like dealing with sports or even with the tech side of things. The technical stuff is great, but I have a lot more enjoyment in understanding business problems and then how that can be fixed with technology. So 100% agree with you
Mhm.
on that. You got to learn the business side of things. Michael, it's been great talking to you. Where can we go to find out more about you and what you and Alicia got going on? Let us know where we can find you on social media and any other contact information you want to provide.
Yeah, the website is theedgeagency.com. The edge is spelled E for Edward, J for Jerry. Theedgeagency.com, and we're going to start blogging on there soon. And so, because we're just like kind of doing business stuff right now, and also like kind of working a lot of like, talking to clients and stuff. So we're building stacking, so that we can start to start to outsource, have people run these things so we can get things out faster and quicker and be more efficient and stuff like that. So it's a whole process. But let's see. My Instagram, I guess, it's a film dad 24, and Alicia's, I'll ask her what it is, or ask her what she wants to use, and you can put it up there or whatever if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So yeah, and I'm always available for questions. I'm always here to help other people to whatever it is, whether it's technology or running a business or trying to just see how they can get more sales and more visual so people can see them more.
All right. Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate your time today. And yeah, thanks again.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share this with somebody. Let them know that this podcast is available for them. And also do me a favor, if you're feeling up to it, leave a review in Apple Podcasts and then leave a rating as well too. This helps get this podcast out to other people that might need to hear this information. So by you doing that, it would mean the world to me. So I thank you so much for your time, and we will talk again soon. Have a great day.